Imagine you're living in 7th century Arabia. The year is 610 CE. There's no electricity, no engines, no machines of any kind. The most advanced technology is a sword and a wooden cart pulled by a camel. Communication happens face to face or through messengers who travel for weeks. And someone tells you that in the future, people's sandals and whips will speak to them, not metaphorically, but literally talk, give information, have conversations. You would think that person lost their mind. It sounds like a fairy tale, like magic, like something that violates the basic laws of reality. Yet this is exactly what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said would happen as a sign of the end times. And if you're holding a smartphone right now, if you're wearing a smartwatch, if you have wireless earbuds, you're living inside that prophecy. You're experiencing what people 1400 years ago would have called impossible. And this isn't me stretching metaphors to fit modern technology. The Hadith is so specific and so literal that Islamic scholars for centuries didn't know how to interpret it because it seemed strange. But today the interpretation is obvious. We're living it. So let me show you the exact Hadith with full authentication, the historical confusion it caused, and why the modern evidence is impossible to deny. The prophecy comes from a Hadith where Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was describing the signs of the last hour, and he said, translating from the Arabic, "The hour will not be established until a man's whip and his sandals speak to him, and his thigh informs him of what occurred with his family after he left them." This Hadith is recorded in Jami at-Tirmidhi Hadith number 2181, and also in Musnad Ahmad Hadith number 3561. The chain of narration goes back to Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, a companion of the Prophet, who directly heard these words. Scholars have classified this Hadith as Hasan, meaning good and acceptable for driving beliefs. And for over 1,000 years, Islamic scholars were confused by this prophecy. They wrote commentaries trying to understand what it could possibly mean. Some said it was metaphorical, some said it referred to magical events near the end times. Others admitted they simply didn't know. But notice what the Prophet specified. He said a man's whip. In his time, the whip was what you carried for controlling your riding animal. It was an extension of yourself, always with you. He said sandal, meaning something you wear on your foot, something personal and portable. And he said these items will speak to him, not that he'll speak to them, but that they will give him information. And then he adds the detail about the thigh informing him about his family, meaning something on his person, something he carries, will give him news about what's happening at home while he's away. Now pause and think about what you're carrying right now. You have a smartphone in your pocket. And what does it do? It speaks to you. Siri speaks. Google Assistant speaks. Your phone literally talks and gives you information. You have smartwatches on your wrist, fitness trackers on your body that vibrate on your thigh or wrist and inform you of messages, calls, updates about your family. You have wireless earbuds that speak directly into your ears, and here's what makes this prophecy mathematically impossible to guess. Muhammad, peace be upon him, had no framework for understanding electronic devices. There was no progression of technology he could observe and extrapolate from. Humans had been using sandals and whips for thousands of years, and they never spoke. There was no logical reason to predict they would start speaking. It's not like he saw primitive phones and predicted better phones. He saw sandals and whips and predicted they would talk. That's not extrapolation. That's not logical guessing. That's either insane or prophetic. And the specific details make it even more impossible. He could have said people will have speaking objects, but he specifically said items you carry with you, personal items, items associated with travel. The whip for journey and the sandal for walking, which perfectly describes mobile technology, not stationary technology. And he said the thigh will inform you about your family, which perfectly describes phones and pockets vibrating with messages and notifications about what's happening at home. And for over 1,000 years, this Hadith made no sense. Scholars couldn't explain it. It seemed bizarre. But the moment smartphones were invented, the moment we got mobile devices that literally speak to us and give us information about our families while we ray away, suddenly this ancient prophecy became crystal clear. And here's what skeptics cannot explain. If Muhammad, peace be upon him, was making things up, why say something so specific and so strange that it would sound crazy for 1,400 years? Why not stick to safe predictions? Why risk your credibility on something that seems impossible? Unless you're actually seeing the future, unless you actually know what's coming. And the fact that we're all walking around with devices that literally speak to us, devices we carry in our pockets and on our wrist, devices that inform us about our families remotely, that's not coincidence. That's not lucky guessing. That's precise foreknowledge of technology that wouldn't exist for 14 centuries. So before you swipe away, hold your phone, feel it vibrate, hear Siri speak, and ask yourself honestly, how did a man in 7th century Arabia with no concept of electronics, no understanding of computers, no framework for digital communication. How did he describe your smartphone with such accuracy that scholars can even understand his words until the technology actually existed? And if he could see this, what else did he see? Subscribe. Because every video presents authenticated prophecies with modern evidence. And this is just the beginning.